The Sandman has finally returned to our screens after almost 3 years. Yep, it's been one hell of a wait for these first batch of episodes that are going to be concluding the show for good when the final part releases in just a couple of weeks. With a story that felt like it was split into 3/3, we saw the very idea of destruction being seeked out in many forms, and to quote Destiny, in "those who look for destruction often end up finding it." Dream found it on a personal level, and with Season 2 Part 2, he's gonna find it impacting many other areas of his existence. So with that, let's dive into this show and break down all that there was to take away from the ending. Here is the Sandman Season 2 Part 1 ending explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. The ending explained. When it came to the ending of this first batch of episodes, we saw that Dream had almost gone on a personal journey of growth. A journey of putting his own personal gain aside when he said that he was looking to find Nada, but masking it with searching for his missing brother, Destruction. But we also saw him unite with his son for the first time in thousands of years, following him saying that he'd never see him again. It was actually the search for Destruction that led Dream to his son, because Orpheous was seen to be an oracle in the family and was able to tell him of his brother's location. It was also his brother that summed up exactly what Dream was truly feeling and why he ended up giving his son the very thing that he'd desired from the moment that the Sisters of Frenzy obliterated him and left his immortal mind without a body. When both Dream and Delirium found Destruction, we found out the very reason as to why he abandoned his realm, and it was actually for a powerful reason. We saw in the flashback in episode 5 that Destruction had come to care about the human race, and he grew to despise the very reason for his own existence, to cause destruction to them. But at the same time, he also saw that humans were sadly capable of causing their own destruction without the assistance of him. Hence why his realm was able to operate in such an efficient manner for hundreds of years without him being at the will following him abandoning his post. Destruction said that his reason for leaving was out of love for them, and that love is the only good reason to do anything. This is a line that I feel carried through to Dream's ending. Dream was told that he didn't have the capability of loving earlier on in the season. He was told this by Nada, he was once told this by Destruction, and he questioned it himself because of the way that he'd acted throughout his time, even with him abandoning his son thousands of years back. However, with him going to see Orpheus for the first time in centuries within the temple, and him repaying the debt that he owed his son for the location of Destruction, Dream gave his son the very thing that he wanted since he lost his wife thousands of years ago, his death. In Orpheus's final moments, Dream said the reason that he told him that he'd never see him again all of those years ago was because he was scared to live in a world without his son, so walking away was the less painful option for him to do. But with Dream returning to him and being the very person that delivered the blow that killed him, Dream did that out of love for him, showing that he was capable of feeling the very thing that he didn't know that he could. So it showed true progression within the character. This was also the personal destruction that Desire warned Dream of when he said those that go looking for destruction often end up finding it. This is because he was now without his son, and he was also mourning him and breaking down as he wiped his blood off of his hands. So he found destruction in a way that he never thought he would, and he also found love. Two contrasting feelings and emotions, and the ones that were at the core of these 6 episodes. This was also destruction on a wider scale in the sense that the Endless are not supposed to spill the blood of another, and Dream disregarded that rule for the sake of love. So it means that his very existence is going to be thrown into question, and we're going to see a mass level of destruction heading towards him as he'll be hunted, look to be destroyed, and the realm of dreaming could well come crumbling to its knees. This would render the waking world without the ability to dream. So the very line that Destiny said at the start, with a king abandoning his kingdom and it all being triggered by that one meeting, it actually was, because Dream did abandon his kingdom. He broke the rules, and if it wasn't for that meeting, then Delirium wouldn't have mentioned Destruction and her desire to find him, which then wouldn't have dragged Dream into it. So it did tie right the way back to the beginning, which I thought was a nice touch. My review of the season. I feel like this first installment of Season 2 was a season of thirds. The first third felt like it was all about the hunt for Nada and Dream's allocation of the keys to hell. The second was about Dream missing Nada and then going looking for her. And then the third was all about Dream and his turbulent relationship with his son. I don't know if it's because there were less episodes than Season 1, but it just didn't really feel as large scale and consequential as what we got 3 years ago. It was almost too easy to follow, if that makes sense. Not that I needed it to be confusing, but I remember last season the show jumping to different locations, time periods, and it all kind of connecting together. Like I said, this one just felt a little bit compartmentalized in the sense that it was easy to map the thirds because they just felt so separate. I also thought the hold that Nada had over Dream after all of that time had passed was something that I just didn't really buy into. So the Dream and Nada complex was something that I wasn't really a big fan of. However, I thought the search for destruction and also the complex that he had with his son and seeing how all of that unfolded was enjoyable to follow. If I'm being honest, it kinda just felt like this was operating to set up the second part of season 2, which makes sense, but it was all building towards Dream spilling blood, and the next season feels like it's gonna be all about the repercussions that will be felt because of it. So why not just release all the episodes at once? I did enjoy this story, but I just thought it felt a bit more basic than what we got last time, as most of the family weren't actually in it that much, which I thought was a shame. When it came to the performances, I thought they were all really strong. I thought Tom Sturridge's Dream was a really well performed character, and he was just as strong as what he was a few years ago. The emotionless tone and facial expressions that he adopts for this role is truly felt, and when it was contrasted with the tears and upset at the end, it was such a powerful watch. I also thought Esme Creed Miles' Delirium was a really infectious character to follow. Her lightheartedness was the polar opposite to Dream, but the chemistry of them was really strong. So I was a big fan of that duo leading the season, and I thought she was a great inclusion. I also thought that Desire had a slight tonal shift in this season, and they didn't seem to be as evil as what they were in season 1, and I thought that was a good decision to make. Because following the club being destroyed, we truly got to see that Dream was actually one of the worst people there and was causing chaos without truly holding a mirror up to himself. The effects, well, they were okay for the most part. Some looked really cool and some looked a bit cheap and like not as much time had been spent on them. I'd probably say that my favourite was Azazel when he'd morph into the demon. It looked so demonic, haunting, and just outright scary. I was really impressed with it, and he was easily the most menacing person that was there. One thing that I would say went against this season slightly is that it didn't feel like the ensemble cast had that much to do. We were introduced to other characters and then they'd almost just disappear. Things such as Loki being in Dream's Dead and also Nula staying at Dreams. I'm hoping that these new characters will feature more when the show returns for its final installment, and we'll actually get to see more of the family, because I did feel their absence. We just get the odd scene with Death collecting the dead, but there was never any true meaningful conversations between them like in the previous season, or a deeper understanding of what each of the family members represent, so that's something that I'm hoping will change. Overall, I think this season was pretty good and enjoyable to watch. Is it worth waiting 3 years for? Most definitely not. That's just way too long to be honest, but the show does pick itself up from where it left off quite well, and despite not being as good as season 1, it was easy to follow, it had strong performances, and it set up a final season which is coming out in only a few weeks, which is good to know in such a strong way. I truly can't predict the end right now. Will Dream and his realm be destroyed? Will it not? I guess we'll just have to see. So, there you have it, the Sandman Season 2 Part 1 ending explained.